Welcome to The Last, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and today I'm talking about Maliwan grenades. Um, I've had trouble recording this video. This is like my third take at it. My first attempt, I acquired this grenade in my game, but it only had 3 grenades, or times 3, because I was wearing pants when I acquired it, and that was my fault. And the next time I forgot a shot Kiss of Death, because once again, when I was loading these grenades into my character, I was wearing pants. So, a friendly reminder, don't wear pants, because pants are terrible, and they fuck everything up. So, on to the actual video. Maliwan makes transfusion grenades, and transfusion grenades are sweet and awesome because they deal damage, and they apply dots, or slag, and they heal. So, I have shock ones here instead of slag because I wanted to look at the dot damage. But most of the time when people are using slag or transfusion grenades, they will be using slag. So with this, you see 775 damage times 8. So if I chuck this at my friendly grenade guy, you'll see that initial explosion, and then they'll all come back and hit him. That was kind of a bad. There you go. And then you see the healing trails coming. So that is all good and dandy. Now you saw that number coming out. It was doing about half damage. So the initial explosion looks like it's the full damage, and then the transfusion trails are all 50% of that. Let me just verify that again. Yep, 349. And then as those other ones came back, 349. And one more time because that wasn't too clear. Yep. There we see him. Okay. Now, if you compare that to the Seraph version, which I will go down here, the longbow shock O negative, or just an O negative. That's not the right grenade. There we go. The O negative has more damage. A decent amount, about 70. Decent amount more damage there. Now, you also have not quite 100,000, about 70,000. You have a slightly bigger blast radius, which you probably won't notice, but then you have a longer fuse time. But you also have higher dot damage there. So as we saw those finish, you see the extra damage from it. When again, it's not a ton of extra damage, but it's enough. So there's kind of that debate between those. What do you go with? If you're using it for slag, like a Zero would, you're definitely better off with a regular transfusion. I like the shock ones on Maya because, again, I have Rune, and I'm not spec'd into it, so I'm hitting the action skill for nothing. But typically I would have Rune and Scorn for slag. Now I like shock grenades on Maya because, like I said, if I can strip shields from especially a lot of flesh enemies, I can just hit them straight with fire and be much more efficient. So Quasar, Stormfront, and shock transfusions. They work really good in, let's say, the assassins fight, because I can throw them kind of prematurely, phase lock them, their shields down, I can just deal with their health. And then when they come down, there's a ton of healing trails coming out if I don't kill them and I miss sweet release. But a lot of other characters would be better off with just a transfusion. Now, the O negatives probably would be, they should be more, well, one of two things with these. They are easy to farm because they drop from Pete, where regular transfusions are just a world drop, so they can be a real bitch to get, a perfect one without a fuse. But even with that said, the O negatives, for them to have the drawback of a 1.5 fuse, which on grenades is significant, especially a healing grenade, you want that pretty fast. It should either have an extra couple of grenades, so maybe a times 10 instead of a times 8. a massively increased blast radius. Not like 284 to 274 isn't shit. You're still not going to really hit 2 enemies with that blast, pretty rarely at least. So either that should be big enough where it can hit multiple enemies, maybe bumped up to like a 400, or drop. I can see that fuse time, but maybe 0.5 instead of 1.5, because 1.5 is getting up to heavy range. It's not terrible, but it's annoying. It's not like a 3-second fuse or something bad, but the numbers don't quite justify it. So either get that damage up to like 1,000,000, or give it another 2 grenades, or really increase the blast rate. It's kind of like one of those three, I think, would be a better move to justify that fuse time. Or just drop the fuse time and leave it alone. But then it's not that different. I think it would have been cool to see kind of some of the other things. I really like the idea of a big blast radius transfusion grenade too. So that's the O negative. Not bad, because I mean just regular transfusions are good and it's easy to acquire one. But not fantastic either. Next you have the leech. Now the leech, especially compared to the longbow here, you lose a lot of damage. Almost all of it. You're down to 100,000 compared to 800,000 or 775. Even a smaller blast radius. So the leech here, before I do that, I'm going to put on a Rough Rider. So now you see I have some missing health. Now that leech will blow up, and when it attacks on him, I'm getting healed from it. But the healing's not fantastic. Let's do another one. It's not great healing, and then they don't put out, or do they put out transfusion trails? Nope. So not really that fantastic, especially for the low damage. Oops, not that. Alright, get my health back to normal, put the Rough Rider back on. Now, I'm going to come back to the leech in a second. Now there's a Kiss of Death. So the Kiss of Death now has a ton of damage. 1.4 million compared to this or this. You know, you're pretty much doubling there, and you're up to 389 blast radius, but you have a 3-second fuse. You also have a lower dot, and you can only get up to 6 child grenades. But that's also because it's based off of blue, which a blue one can only go up to 7 child grenades typically. But you see here, compared to a blue longbow shock transfusion, quite a bit better. So, the Kiss of Death will home around, and then it'll latch onto him, and it heals you while it's on him, supposedly, although I didn't notice it there. That's not what I want. Either is that. Alright. Sorry, the evolution of the blockade looks similar, so I sometimes screw that up. Alright, so let's throw this on, and let's watch my healing. 530, 564. For some reason I was thinking it healed while it was on him. It doesn't. But then you put out those trails, and you get healed. So, at least that one does a lot of damage compared to the leech, and then you put out transfusions. It's just that 3-second fuse is a heavy price. So I don't really know if that's really worth that 3-second fuse, and that's why you don't see them that often. But man, they do pack a punch. Now, if it was like the leech, where it healed while it was on, and it put out the transfusion trails, it'd be really sweet. I do appreciate the damage, but how much higher is the damage considering you lose 2 of them? And it's still up there because you're double, so it's still more damage. But you're not typically using transfusion grenades so much for the damage. So that's kind of tough. And that's all the transfusions. So it's cool that we have options. If there is... I feel like maybe the longbow shock O negative should be like a leech slash regular transfusion, where you get best of both worlds and you have a super sweet healing grenade. That would have been interesting. Now, we're not done though. We have a whole new set of grenades to cover, and they are your Tiny Tina ones. So, we start here with a Chain Lightning versus Lightning Bolt. Both are red text. We can't really compare them to other grenades, just each other. So, the Chain Lightning has lower damage, a lower blast radius by quite a bit compared to the Lightning Bolt. I guess I'll start with the Lightning Bolt. And all these ones also regenerate your grenades. So eventually you'll hear sound like I picked up a grenade and I'll get another one. Now the Lightning Bolt, you throw at a target, and you can see there, 1,000,000 damage. Pretty solid. Or you can throw over here. Explosives! Not quite hitting him. I thought I had a big enough. There you go. You saw it still hit him. And there's that regeneration. All the way over here. So it's got a pretty big blast radius. Now the Chain Lightning, people like the Chain Lightning because it seeks out enemies. So you don't have to aim it. You just throw it and it seeks out enemies, making it the ultimate healing grenade. Since all you have to do is chuck it and hold a grog and you win. I personally find that cheap and boring. In OP8, it doesn't even really reliably strip shields, unless you throw multiples of them, which I think is extra lame. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do not love it. Melee players have become pretty dependent on it. I just think it cheapens the game, and that goes along with the grog. But, you know, whatever. Do you. Now, the actual Lightning Bolt, I actually prefer the regular Lightning Bolt to the Chain Lightning, because it's not that hard to aim, and you're actually getting some decent damage and blast radius out of it. But Chain Lightning is easy mode, and people like easy mode. So next we have the Magic Missiles, which is also an incredibly highly used grenade, and I can see why. Now the Magic Missiles, there are two versions. There is a ×2 and a ×4. And the ×4 has more damage, and it throws 4 instead of 2. So people definitely like the ×4 more. There's no reason to really show both. So you throw it, they go and seek out an enemy and blow up. Now it does have very high damage, but what you can see here is when they blow up, you get this massive slag cloud, and you can't see anything. I don't like that, because it means I can't really crit my enemies, because I can't see my enemies. The other thing is, because they're homing and you don't control it, let's say this dummy is a skag, and I throw it and the skag jumps at me, it's going to run back and blow up me and the skag. Now, some people will use a low-level magic missile, so they avoid that, but then you lose all that good damage it does. So, you know, you can go two ways about it. Once again, sorry to be a grumpy old man, but I don't like the magic missile. I think they're better slag tools, and I would rather use a slag gun. I mean, I get it, you don't have to swap guns, so it's nice to have a slag grenade, but I would rather use a transfusion grenade and have some kind of slagging on my character, or have a slag gun in conjunction with them. I just hate the magic missile. Mainly because the visual pollution and the self-damage. I find it annoying. And sometimes you're playing with people where you're in like a 4-player game and 2 or 3 of them are just chucking magic missiles left and right, and you just can't see shit. But the enemies see through them and shooting you just fine, and sometimes it does more harm than good. So I'm not a fan of the magic missile. I would rather use a slag transfusion, slag my enemy, and take care of them, than a magic missile. But I get it. They regen. There's 4 of them, but not my thing. Now, oddly enough, because I guess I'm a grenade hipster, I really love the last one, the Firestorm. So, where is my fireball? So the last one, you have a fireball or a firestorm. And I think I'm going to go outside for these. I'll throw it inside first. So here you see you get more damage but a less blast radius with the storm compared to the fireball. So the fireball, you throw it and there's just a nice explosion of fire. It's cool. It's just like the other ones, you throw your element. But that's not what I'm excited about. The one I love is the Firestorm. I think this is one of the best, most underrated grenades in the game, I guess. So I don't know if you can really tell what's going on there. You saw some extra fireballs happen there. And that's what I'm going to go outside for. And I'll kind of throw both so you can see them. I'll just quick sprint over to my grenade range over here. Shouldn't take too long. Hey, there's a grenade back. Sweet. I do like the idea of them. Oh, I thought I saw a Mammorel for a second. That would have been cool. Maybe he's hiding around somewhere. Who knows? Ah, there's the blood splatter. Thanks, physics. So you throw this, and then 4 more grenades come down from the sky and blow up in that area. Just adding extra damage, extra chaos. I think that's cool. Now, if you're indoors, you don't see them fall from all the way down there. They just kind of fall from wherever the ceiling is, I believe. So if I go in here, you see they just come down from wherever the ceiling is. And it does a good amount of damage. See the damage on grenade. 2 million, making sure I got my commas right. Yep. So 2.4 million. That's pretty solid, especially fire on flesh. They regen, and they cover a big area, and the impact is pretty good. And I think this is definitely one of the most underrated grenades in the game. I think it's a very good grenade. Let's see inside here. Yeah, who doesn't like to play piano with fireballs? I mean, come on, how sweet is that? If you didn't know you could play the piano with a fireball, shame on you. But, man, I really love this grenade. And, you should too. So if you guys, have used the other Moxie ones quite a bit, but not this one, I suggest trying to get your hands on it. Because it's really sweet, it really rips shit up. Especially if you're doing like an Axton or a Krieg build. It goes so well with them, because they can both boost grenade damage. And Krieg's already got like his Hellfire shit. And this goes so well with a Flame of the Firehawk Krieg build. It just matches in perfectly. You know, it's kind of like his capstone on crack. But like the good kind of crack, not the bad kind. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys give the Fireball a second chance. Because it's really fucking awesome. Go like throw it through Bloodshot, where it's kind of enclosed doors, and just everything gets destroyed. It's really awesome. So, but I thank you guys for staying with me for this entire series. I hope it was productive. Another bleed out here, and I'm going to be moving on to the pre-sequel shortly here. I might take like a week off from this series before I start it. I'm not sure. I've got my Borderlands 1 playthrough, my Star Wars Jack playthrough I'm doing. I've got some stuff going on. So I am going to start the pre-sequel one shortly. I want to get started on it, but I don't have really a time frame on exactly when I'm going to hit it up. But I am going to start with lasers because they're all new, and I think that's going to be the most interesting of all the stuff to go through. I was hoping I could find Mammorel here while I was talking, but he seems not to be in town. Unless he's up by Claptrap. I did not check there. So yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking in the description below. And, you know, I would also, if you want to, tweet this to Gearbox, the series, or maybe the playlist, or I'll provide something in the description below for you guys to tweet. Maybe a link to the forums and the playlist, where I've kind of accumulated all this. And, you know, that was one of the goals I set out in the beginning is, you know, maybe a little narcissistic to think we can influence the making of Borderlands 3. But that was kind of the point of this whole thing, is take an in-depth look of how all these things were made in comparison to the regular counterparts. You know, comparing the O-negative to a regular transfusion grenade, or the Hammer Buster to a regular Jacobs assault rifle, or the Volcano to the Snyder, and say, you know, what were the pluses and the minuses to make these guns, and were they worth it? In a lot of cases, yes. In a lot of cases, like the volcano, no. You lowered the base damage and increased the splash. Well, you just do less damage that way, and it's locked to fire only. And it wasn't really good. And hopefully in Borderlands 3, they can avoid those mistakes and be a little better, smarter with their weapon design, at least the numerical part of it. I think in general, Gearbox did an amazing job of making incredibly interesting weapons, because I'm still playing this game. You know, the Becca here in my hands, this is an interesting assault rifle. The Pimpernel is an incredibly interesting sniper rifle, in conjunction with skills like bore and chain reaction and nth degree, etc., etc. There's so much you can do with it. And that's what makes the game fun, you know. The Twister is a fun and powerful gun. It shoots twirling balls of lightning that go through enemies. That's interesting and cool. Other games don't have a lot of guns like these. I think other games, a lot of other shooters have really boring, generic weapons. You know, when I was playing the Battlefront beta, I was incredibly bored because everything was just boring and straightforward for guns. And Borderlands has broken that mold, and it's kind of spoiled me. So Gearbox has done a great job with that, but they haven't done a phenomenal job with all the numbers on the guns. And, you know, a lot of these guns would be fixed by a simple number value. You know, either don't reduce something as much or increase something more. A lot of them are, you know, kind of on a basic formula like that. Like, they just fixed Cloud Kill and a lot of the rank damage skills by just boosting a number. And that's kind of what the point of this is. You know, I guess better DPS or number testing to make sure the guns are right. So anyways, thank you guys one more time for sticking with me and watching these. And I will see you shortly in the pre-sequel version. Bye.